This is the complete betrayal of Brexit. And let's be very clear about all of this, Nick. Britain is now being taken back into the EU. We're going to be under a foreign court, which is the European Court of Justice, which the British public voted to leave out back in 2016. We're going to be paying to play, so that's more of our hard-pressed taxpayers' money going to the EU. I don't recall Keir Starmer having the courage of any principles, which I don't think he has anyway, going to the country last year to say that's what he wanted to do. And you just touched on, I have to say, you just touched on this whole passport queue issue. The reality is, and I think I've got some experience of this, we were the government that brought in the whole digitalisation. We're working on e-gates, digitalisation of our borders. The EU have something called EES, which is EU entry and exit, which comes into force this October, where guess what? They're doing exactly the same. They're digitalising their borders, where you have to give all your biometrics, and you know what that's like. You put your fingerprints down, etc., etc. That scheme was taking place anyway. So I think the government have basically lied. This is simply not correct what they're saying. And, you know, they put all this in various bargaining chips. And guess what? When Labour negotiates on behalf of the United Kingdom, we're losing. We're putting more money in. We're under a foreign court. And the government has been completely dishonest about all of this from the outset.
This is a complete betrayal of Brexit. Britain is now being taken back into the EU. That blunt assessment isn't from some fringe commentator or a backbench firebrand. It comes straight from a shadow foreign secretary, someone who understands the weight of political theater and the cold mechanics behind diplomatic betrayal. And the core of it, Keir Starmer. The man who once posed as a reluctant Remainer, then a pragmatic centrist, has now fully unmasked himself as the chief architect of a stealth re-entry into the very system that 17.4 million people voted to leave. Starmer didn't just break promises. He systematically dismantled them, brick by brick, speech by speech. From his infamous Make Brexit work, slogan to his constant declarations that Labour would not seek to rejoin the EU, customs union, or single market, he cultivated an image of someone who respected the referendum. But now, as the veil slips, what's being revealed is nothing short of political fraud. Because what we're witnessing isn't reset or stabilization. It's capitulation by stealth. The sovereignty that was hard, won through years of negotiation and national upheaval, is now being handed back with a polite nod and a Brussels-compliant smile. And let's not sugarcoat it. The government has basically lied. Or, more precisely, Starmer has lied again and again to voters, to Parliament, and to the country. His pivot toward EU alignment is not a sudden policy shift born of economic necessity. It's the culmination of a long-held desire among Labour elites to quietly undo Brexit without the inconvenience of a second referendum. This isn't statesmanship. It's cowardice dressed in technocratic language. It's betrayal draped in soft diplomatic euphemisms like alignment and cooperation, when what it really means is abandoning control over our laws, our borders, and our economy. Keir Starmer has no democratic mandate for this betrayal. The people voted to leave the European Union. Not to sort of leave, not to do a halfway hokey re-entry through the back door of regulatory partnership, but to leave. Starmer's betrayal is especially galling because it's not even principled. It's not born of conviction. It's the act of a man so devoid of spine, so afraid of offending Guardian editorial writers and Davos panelists, that he'll sacrifice national sovereignty to win polite applause from Europe's technocratic elite. And what does Britain get in return? A meager G-deep nudge, a few pats on the back from you bureaucrats, and the smug satisfaction of people who always thought Brexit voters were stupid. Starmer has traded away principle for platitudes, democracy for deference, and bold leadership for bureaucratic appeasement. He is not taking Britain forward. He is dragging it back, shackled to the very institutions we broke free from, against the democratic will of the people. History won't remember this as a moment of restoration. It will remember it as the moment Keir Starmer snuffed out the last flame of Brexit. Not with a bang, but with a whimper, and a signature at the bottom of a new drafted memorandum.
Are you celebrating, Nigel?
I am celebrating. I think this is actually a really good deal that he's come back with. And every reaction since has been predictable. Whatever the deal had been struck yesterday, the Daily Mail, the Sun and the Daily Telegraph would have come out with the kind of headlines they did today. Starmer's surrender on the Daily Mail there. What Kemi Badenoch said was predictable. What Nigel Farage said was predictable. Brexiteers don't seem to understand that the idea of just getting closer to Europe does not mean a betrayal of Brexit.
But that is surely because the likes of Farage and Kemi Badenoch are in tune with the British people and they understand democracy, Renee.
And also, well, I was just going to say, the reason that it's predictable, Nigel, is that we had the biggest mandate ever from a vote in this country, 72% turnout. What was it when Keir Starmer got into power? The lowest ever. The biggest democratic exercise that we've ever had to leave Europe. Admittedly, the Tories did it appallingly. Frankly, I would have gone for a no deal and then let Europe come begging, because they would have done. But then that's because I used to negotiate for a living, and Starmer doesn't seem to know the meaning of that word. It is actually a surrender. It is doing exactly what Starmer always said. He said very clearly before he was Prime Minister, he would rather be on Davos than in Westminster. He is a global elite who just wants to be part of this club where he can shake hands and look good. He's not in touch with the British working person. This is not going to put food on people's tables. And it's ironic that last week he started talking tough on immigration because of reform and for no other reason. And now he's going to open up the doors for all of our low-paid jobs that he's apparently going to stop migrants taking to be taken by the youth of Spain and France and all of those countries. It's smoke and mirrors. It's I'm going to give you this.
Well, you mentioned food. It doesn't actually help food. Of course it does. On the basis that now, first of all, it'll be cheaper. As a result of Brexit, I mean, food has gone up about 25% over the last 5 years. As a result of Brexit, about 8% within that 25% can be directly attributed to the problems that Brexit caused. Now, by opening up the borders for without the customs checks, that will make food cheaper, make it easier to export for our farmers, even for our perhaps not the fishermen but the fish sellers. It'll be much easier to be able to go and do that. All these kind of trade deals will actually help the economy, not as much as the economy could have been helped if we hadn't left Europe, but at least we're addressing some of the bad things that came out of Brexit.
Nigel, all this is going to help his big business. The fact that yesterday the only people that were happy about this were the Tesco's of the world, who make billions every year, tells you exactly who it's going to help. Our inflation figures tomorrow are predicted to be about 3.3 at the lowest. So inflation is on its way up. I guarantee you that not one price in the supermarket will be lower in 6 months' time because of this deal.
Brexiteers don't seem to understand that the idea of getting close to Europe does not mean a betrayal of Brexit. That's the latest mental gymnastics from political commentator Nigel Nelson, who's now openly moonlighting as Sir Keir Starmer's ideological bodyguard, spinning Labour's Brexit backtrack as some enlightened act of post-nationalist diplomacy. But let's not get it twisted. This is a betrayal. A cold, calculated, gaslit betrayal. And Starmer is the smiling saboteur at the center of it. Let's unpack the absurdity. The entire point of Brexit was to break away from the suffocating legal and economic grip of Brussels. Sovereignty. Control over our laws, borders, trade. The democratic ability to shape our destiny without approval from you commissioners nobody voted for. But Starmer's new U deal, this glorified regulatory cuddle, is nothing short of a reverse gear disguised as progress. And what's worse, he's doing it while insisting he's respecting the referendum. That's not pragmatism. That's dishonesty with a straight face. Starmer's handlers and media surrogates like Nigel Nelson are desperate to rebrand this move as sensible centrism. But this isn't centrism. This is cowardice posing as moderation. It's the kind of gutless politicking that ignores the will of the people because it makes the dinner party crowd uncomfortable. Starmer isn't trying to make Brexit work. He's trying to dismantle it quietly, piece by piece, behind closed doors, while peer stooges like Nelson run interference by lecturing the public about what they really meant when they voted to leave. Here's the brutal truth. Keir Starmer never accepted Brexit. Not for a second. He spent years trying to reverse it, block it, dilute it. And now that he's got a shot at power, he's treating the Brexit mandate like some disposable campaign leaflet. Useful when convenient, forgotten when inconvenient. He doesn't believe in it. He never did. Which is why his reset with the EU is not a policy. It's a strategic rollback of a democratic vote by a man who views the public as misinformed and unqualified to shape the nation's future. And let's be clear. No amount of semantic squirming from Nigel Nelson can hide what's really happening here. If it walks like rejoining, talks like rejoining, and regulates like rejoining, then regulates like rejoining, bit by bit, with none of the accountability or honesty that a second referendum would require. Starmer isn't leading Britain. He's smuggling it back into the EU using technical tweaks, trade tie, ins and regulatory alignments, until one day we wake up and find ourselves right back under the boot of Brussels with no vote, no voice, and no way out, no voice, and no way out.